Welcome back. Breaking news out of the Middle East this morning. The U.S. Navy sending another warship to the eastern Mediterranean near Israel in an attempt to flex its military strength in the region. President Biden, meanwhile, is denying reports that U.S. troops could join Israel Defense Forces to help Israel. Watch this.
There's a report in the Times of Israel that says Biden officials have indicated to Israel in recent days that if Hezbollah initiates a war against Israel, the U.S. military will join the IDF in fighting the terrorist group.
Not true.
Not true?
That was never said.
President Biden also announcing that the U.S. will provide $100 million in humanitarian aid for Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank during his trip to Israel yesterday. Joining me right now is retired U.S. Army Brigadier General and the author of Total Empire. Anthony Tata is with us once again. General, good to see you. Thanks very much for being here this morning.
Good morning, Maria.
Your thoughts about another ship, military ship, headed toward the Mideast and, of course, to support the other two that are there near Israel. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Maria, I think the #1 job of the United States Department of Defense right now is to deter Iran from participating in an overt way with Hezbollah, those in the West Bank or down in Gaza. We know that they're covertly supporting all of those terrorist organizations resident in those areas. So it's not anything that we can question. It is without doubt that Iran is behind all of this. And why the president refuses to mention Iran is really a mystery. And I know that they want to keep the pipes open to the Iran nuclear deal. I know that there are sympathizers within DOD and state, some call them spies, from Iran, but it's really not a wise move. He needs to take on Iran directly and message that we understand that they are behind this and get them to back off. And that will allow some other things to flow, like the aid that he's talking about through Rafah down in Gaza and so forth. So it's all about having some muscle in there, hopefully to match a messaging program where we can tell Iran to back down.
Well, I mean, it's a great point. Tiana, this administration will not connect the dots to Iran. And the president will not even mention Iran.
No, I mean, clearly the criticism is coming from a vacuum. Biden has always been somewhat compromised by the Iranians. We know this administration has had espionage within it from Iran and still, to date, refusing to admit that money is fungible, that the amount of reserves that we have passed over to the Iranians was used in part to subsidize this attack. We know that Hamas met with the Iranians in Beirut in order to sign off on this. So not only just with regards to the Iranians, but also the wild card of Lebanon and Hezbollah, how much more do we risk a northern incursion from Hezbollah into the West Bank, into Israel's northern border? And how much of this could theoretically be stopped by Biden taking it to Tehran and renewing more sanctions?
Yeah, so I agree with all of that. And I think one of the things that we should do is, message, as I said, but also we call them flexible deterrent options. We can fly some jets off the aircraft carrier. We can get some helicopters doing some patrols and maneuvers in the area. We can do something more forceful and match that with a messaging campaign. And the other thing is this $6 billion that was unfrozen, and some of the other monies that have been unfrozen. Let Iran and take care of Gaza. They're providing their weapons. They've got the logistics and supply routes in there. Let them push some food and water and medical supplies in there too. And if we had a more competent Secretary of State and State Department, we might be able to influence people in that way.
Well, it's a great point. Meanwhile, U.S. troops are injured after being targeted by 3 drones in 2 separate attacks in Iraq yesterday. The Islamic Resistance in Iraq, an Iran-backed group as well, reportedly claiming responsibility for this attack. The group targeting the Al-Assad and Al-Harir air bases. U.S. troops intercepted the drones, but one still managed to explode, causing minor injuries. So, General, do you think this is going to broaden out even further? We're also worried about Hezbollah coming in. We're told that they have 100,000 rockets.
Yeah, so absolutely. This is all Iran. Iran funds these Shia militia groups. The greatest thing President Trump did was, take Soleimani off the chessboard and off the battlefield, who was supplying all those horrible IEDs to maim our troops.
Yeah.
And so with the Houthi rebels down in Yemen, the Shia militia groups in Iraq, Hezbollah, Hamas, anything that happens in that region, Iran is a net exporter of terror. That's their #1 export, in addition to oil to China. And so why this administration doesn't require them to stop that is beyond anybody's belief right now, because it is without it. When I performed the duties as Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, every morning we were made aware of what Iran was doing in that region every morning. And it's without doubt that they are behind all of this.
Of course. But Kayleigh, they won't discuss it. And what about this money to the Palestinians without even any mention of the hostages?
Exactly. In general, it's impossible not to notice that the increased aggression that we've seen from Iran has heightened over the past few years under Joe Biden's presidency. And we know that he's talked about reviving the failed nuclear deal that never should have been struck in the first place. How much responsibilities does Joe Biden have personally for what we're seeing in the Middle East?
I'd say a lot, and I would also say President Obama has a lot of responsibility.
That's
because
right.
Under his first, tour as president, that all of this began, and it's a nonsensical outreach. You cannot. Someone made the point earlier on the show about we fall into the trap of thinking that these people think like us, and they don't. They don't value life the way we do, and they have the near enemy Israel and the far enemy United States, and that is not changing until there's a leadership change.
Yeah, Mark Tepper made the point, and Mark, you also made the point that this is $100 million that Biden is sending to the Palestinians. What are we talking about there, Mark?
To 1 million people. So, I'm not the best at math, but 100 million divided by 1 million sounds like $100 per person, which, if you are giving that to someone because they're displaced from their home, that doesn't do much. $100 per person. It does not move the needle.
Here?
So optically, from my standpoint, I'm looking at this and I'm saying this is nothing more than a PR move. He's trying to appease everybody, and in doing so, he's losing respect.
I mean, General, what about that? I mean, you get displaced from your house. Here's $100.
Yeah, so, well, first of all, it makes no difference if you don't have the logistics moving in there for them to buy anything or to get the relief that they need.
Yeah.
That money would be much better used by coordinating with Egypt and some of the other, more moderate, use that term loosely, nations in the area, Arab nations that can move supplies into there. The other thing is Biden is beholden to this super progressive left faction within his own party, and he's trying to have it both ways. And you have to be unequivocal about this and your support for Israel.
Yeah, for sure. General, thanks very much. We so appreciate your thoughts. General Anthony Tata joining us.